Chaser Talk Radio. Other shows water down the... This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
Good evening, and welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues, we only serve the hard stuff. It's the Chief, and I am here this evening with Thin Bad, and I got Thin Bad muted. We got to unmute yourself, Thin Bad. There we go.
Trying to hush me. You trying to hush me?
That's right, man. It's a controlled environment here, man. That's how we do.
Man, this is getting out of hand.
We're here with Thin Bad. Good afternoon, Thin Bad. How are you, sir?
I am doing all right. Not too bad in the middle of all of this craziness that's going on today. But, you know, every day that you're upright, you're all right. So,
yeah, all right. All right. Preach.
Wow.
That's right. Preach. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are still in the COVID environment, unfortunately. All jokes aside, right now we are approaching 170,000 people who have died from this pandemic, and it only appears that the numbers are going to get higher in terms of people dying and people catching the virus, whether they are symptomatic or asymptomatic. And it just seems like there's no end in sight right now. We've seen all of the press conferences here and there where we're talking about possible cures, injections, and all kinds of other things, wearing a mask, social distancing, all the things that you've heard about for the last couple of months, at least since March. And on top of all this, ladies and gentlemen, it's now school time. It's time for the children to go back to school. Pre-K, high school, junior high, if they still call it junior high school, and of course, our scholars that are headed off to college. But right now, the 3 R's have kind of changed a little bit. It used to be reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now it's reading, writing, and running from COVID.
Oh, Lord.
So, yeah, you know, and that's not a cool thing. There's some jurisdictions like Florida where the governor is insisting that schools should be reopened. Other jurisdictions like Mississippi just announced that they are going to stay in a virtual environment for a while until they can assess things. But wherever you are in the country, actually wherever you are in the world, this is still a very scary thing. Now parents have to make the decision, particularly in those jurisdictions where it's an option. Do I send my child to school and possibly risk exposing them to COVID, or do I allow them to stay home and do things virtually, but not have that same social experience that will help their development? So to help us to talk about some of the ins and outs of this is Dr. Anthony Marentek. Dr.
Hello.
How you doing, Dr. Marentek?
I cannot complain. How are you?
Thank you, sir. And we're just so happy to have you here this evening to kind of help us sort of work through this and talk about some of the issues that are facing not only the parents, but seasoned administrators such as yourself. And for those of you that don't know, Dr. Marentek is the principal at the South Academic Academy in Las Vegas. And so he has decades of teaching experience, also years of experience as an administrator. And so he's actually witnessed schools going through things such as active shooter, suspending, in-house suspensions, and now we're talking about pandemics which have not only the capacity to kill, but they have the capacity to wipe people out mentally as well. So, Dr. Marentek, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. We're gonna jump right into this thing because I'm sure there are people all over the country that are sort of in the same pickle, and that is, now that my jurisdiction has laid out their plan and they've given me the option, what do I do? What do I keep my kid in school? Do I send her to school? What do I do? But let me ask you, in your experience with this pandemic thing, as a seasoned administrator, what do you see as the biggest challenges that are facing you and your colleagues across the country?
I think the biggest challenge that we're facing right now is the connectivity of our students and our families, because we're educators, so we understand that we need to have internet. We need to have several devices, i.e. Computers, laptop, iPads, or a Google device to stay connected within our school and within our world. And we understand that, but we're seeing that there are a lot of families that have to make the choice, either we're going to eat tonight or we're going to have internet. So that's one of the biggest barriers that I think that educators across the country, we didn't foresee that in our pre-K to 12 schools. And we're still making calls now. And unfortunately, because of COVID and being in Las Vegas, Nevada, the casinos run the state. And I was completely shocked when our governor shut down our casinos for a couple of months. Because, when you shut down our golden ticket, if you will, for our state's revenue, then it's really serious, and we have to really understand COVID and things like that. But understandably, with most school districts that I hear throughout the country, teachers still were receiving payment for distance learning, and obviously administrators and everybody else. But in the casino business, when you don't go to work, you don't get paid.
Sure.
So with that being said, our cable companies out here, they offered some plans for next to nothing to free internet for families. But we found out that if they already had an outstanding bill with those cable providers, they weren't granted into receiving those free services from the internet providers. So we had to kind of basically think of what we needed to do to make sure that students were getting a quality instruction, especially during the end of the third quarter and the entire fourth quarter as well.
Now, when you obviously had to close the schools because of the whole pandemic piece, what, as they started getting to the point where they were making those decisions, did you start to see changes in your school environment, just in terms of the mental stress that was going on as they started talking about the lethality and so forth? Or what did you see?
Well, we were watching the news, and I have a great staff, and they'll text me, they'll call me, email me, have you heard this? And we're watching the news at night, and other districts, especially on the East Coast, they started to close down, and we were still open. And LA Unified closed down before us, so we're like, okay, because they're a bigger school district than us. We're the fifth largest. I believe they're the third or fourth, and we're having that conversations amongst the staff, and we're like, well, are we shutting down? And unfortunately, we found out Friday night, I think, if I recall, it was, forgive me about my dates, but I know it was a Friday. It was maybe Friday the 13th, believe it or not, in March. Okay. So we found out either late that night or Saturday that our district is closed. So we received orders that no one can go in. So we weren't prepared. We weren't prepared to get our instructional materials to take home so we can remote learn, to remote teach our students so they can remotely learn from us. We're closed, and boom, we had to really figure out how we can give our kids a quality education with A, not having resources, and B, not being trained on online learning. So the learning curve was huge, and I can say teachers across this country stepped up because they love kids. We don't go into education to get rich. We go into education because we love kids, and they stepped up, and it was great because we had some teachers that are more knowledgeable regarding online learning, and they shared their practice and instructional delivery, and that was really good. So we were kind of watching, and then I'll speak for myself. I thought, okay, we're going to close. No, we're not going to close. This is Las Vegas. We stay open,
sure.
24-hour town. And then after LA, nothing. So, no, we're not going to close. But, we had the conversation. I remember telling my staff, be prepared. And then I thought to be prepared, they would say, okay, we're closing. And then you have at least a day or two to go into your classrooms to get your materials. But it's like, we're closed and you cannot go into the building.
Wow. And so with that in mind, what are you doing differently now? I know that you all are going to do virtual until sometime in near December, January, but what are you doing differently now that you learned from the sudden closure so that when you do get back in the mix, you will be ready to rock?
That's a good question. We learned from our mistakes. So we are now using a platform called Canvas. It's been around for a little bit, and I believe the colleges have used it for their online environment, their platform. And some of our virtual charter schools have used Canvas as well. So we're in the process of being trained. Usually with our district, we come back. Today was our first day. We come back. We have meetings all day today. And then Thursday is a teacher no contact day where they are in their room setting up, getting prepared with the curriculum. And then Friday we have some meetings procedurally regarding school and district policies. And then Monday we start. So this year we have 2 weeks of professional development on the Canvas system, how to navigate the Canvas, how to have face-to-face online instruction with our students. It's more in line with Zoom, where you can put students in groups and they can work together. So we're prepared because we can't have our kids not receiving an education.
Sure.
So we're prepared. We're doing the online training, and even myself, I'm not a teacher, but I have to go and learn the system myself. So we have 2 weeks plus 3 days to learn it.
Wow, they give you a whole lot of time to learn it, right? to learn.
Yeah, because the expectation is instruction has to continue, and our kids need to have that quality instruction. And we understand that we have COVID-19, but we still need to push forward because we need to have our kids come and see your institution and make sure that they're successful. My son's a senior now, and it's like we got to get ready for the ACT. How does that look like virtually? Because I have kids, I have college kids, and then I have personal kids that are in the pivotal grades. I have one in 5th grade ready to go in junior high. I have one in 8th grade ready to go in high school, and then high school to college. So we're having that discussion to make sure that they're prepared, even though it's so easy to play the video games all day. But no, we still have to concentrate on what we need to do for the next level.